The film begins with a report documenting cases of disappearance and death. It is reported that more than 300 people have gone missing in the forest around St. Petersburg. Some bodies have been found completely naked and with signs of assault. The locals believe these people are being taken by an evil entity. An old woman recalls the story of a woman who lived in the village and acted strangely. One day, this woman took a boy into the forest and disappeared with him. After days of searching, the boy was found the same way as the other victims, without clothes and with signs of violence. Since then, everyone has started to avoid her completely. Isolated and rejected, she ended up taking her own life. The villagers believe she got the fate she deserved for her actions. The next scene shows the training of a rescue team in a cave. Victoria, a new volunteer, is introduced, who is on her first day and needs to save an injured man. However, Andrei, her boss, interrupts, saying that time has run out, as the victim has lost too much blood. He asks them to prepare the stretcher to remove the corpse. He comments in an interview that the hardest part of the job is finding a lifeless body. During their return, the team finds the exit blocked by a landslide. Victoria locates a narrow passage, and although she gets stuck for a few moments, is helped and manages to get out. Next, we meet reporter Christina, who will follow Victoria's first day. Later, on the way to training, Andrei receives a call informing that two brothers entered the forest, with only the younger one returning in shock. Training is suspended, as they are the closest team. Andrei informs that the boys were last seen in a swamp and forest area. Harry comments that the area is vast and questions where the boys came from, since there is no village nearby. His companion explains that the village is about 15 kilometers away, and that there is an area of swamp nearby considered extremely dangerous. The group arrives at the location and Christina starts filming, while Victoria shows discomfort at her presence. Harry checks the radio signal and realizes that communication has been cut off. Inside the van, Christina notes a strange item and questions it. Harry explains that it is a search siren, demonstrating how it works by turning it on, but the loud sound bothers everyone. Already in the forest, Andrei decides that the group will split up and call out the boy's name. He takes the dog and follows the trail, while Harry and Victoria stay together, receiving the warning not to stray too far. Harry expresses skepticism, commenting that it is useless to search, having participated in 100 missions in the last 3 years without finding anyone alive. Victoria responds that maybe the beginner's luck is on their side, and the two continue the search. During the search, Victoria smells something burning and alerts Harry, who says he doesn't smell anything. Still, she follows the trail and finds a toy on the ground. Harry calls her to look ahead, and then she sees a woman in front of them, completely naked and in a state of shock. Already at night, they regroup and make an improvised stretcher. Along the way, Christina records the rescue, informing that the woman shows no injuries and that her clothes are missing. Additionally, they do not know why a toy was near the woman. The rescuers move ahead while Christina stays behind. She explains what happened to the woman when she is suddenly knocked down by something. The group doesn't notice and continues on, leaving her behind. Christina begins to hear a strange sound coming from the forest and becomes worried. Victoria appears, helps her up, and asks her to hurry. During their path, they need to stop as the woman begins to have a seizure. Andrei realizes that there is something in the woman's mouth and asks them to hold her head, as he will check. He puts his fingers in her mouth and starts looking, but she wakes up at that moment and begins to bite him. With the help of the others, he manages to pull his fingers out, and a piece of hay stuck in the woman's throat. This worries everyone, but at the same time it relieves them, as now the woman can breathe. Victoria helps Andrei with his wounds, while Harry tries to make contact through the radio but without success. Christina asks if he succeeded, and he informs her that the region has no signal. Suddenly, a terrifying scream echoes, and the woman wakes up startled. They follow to investigate, and along the way, hear the scream again. Harry runs, believing it to be the boy, and then informs that it was just the cracking of trees. Victoria notices a strange symbol on a tree and alerts the group. She says it looks like a frog, but Elijah disagrees. He explains that the symbols on the dead trees indicate sacred places, but this one looks evil, leaving him even more intrigued by the creature's broken legs. Christina downplays it, calling it a legend, and Andrei orders them to hurry. Christina touches the symbol and feels a terrible sensation, quickly backing away. Back with the group, she tries to film again, but the rescuers interrupt her, asking her to stop. They reach the van, and Christina questions about the boy, while Andrei responds that they will first take care of the woman. During the trip, the group faces problems with mud, and the car ends up getting stuck. Andrei gets in the vehicle and tries to accelerate, while Harry and Elias push from the outside, but they cannot move the car. Christina, worried, continues filming the situation when suddenly she hears a sinister voice and runs scared towards the men. With few options, they decide to use a winch to free the car and continue their journey. As they advance through the forest, they notice that the road is blocked by debris. Andrei tells Elias to get the chainsaw to clear the way, while the others stay in the vehicle. Elias and Andrei struggle to start the chainsaw. Meanwhile, the rescued woman begins to cough, and Victoria, noticing that she is conscious, introduces herself, ensuring that she is safe and asking her name. The woman responds that her name is Zoya, and warns that none of them will be able to leave that forest. Victoria is taken aback and asks what Zoya means. She explains that she is referring to the Widow of Shadows, who makes people who enter the forest walk in circles and get lost. Zoya narrates the ancient story of Sophia, a farmer's daughter, who strangled her husband upon learning of his betrayal. Captured by the villagers and blamed for the crime, she was beaten with a metal bar and had her legs broken. Then, they stripped her naked and threw her into a filthy hole. At that moment, the vehicle's lights go out. Scared, Christina asks what happened, but Harry tries to calm her, saying it must just be an issue with the wiring. Zoya continues the narrative, saying that Sophia ended up drowning in the dark mud, and rumors began to emerge. On the eve of Our Lady's Day, evil emerged from that hole. Outside, Andrei realizes Elias is not nearby and begins to worry. Suddenly, Elias appears beside him, pale as a specter. Zoya talks about rumors of a dead woman with broken legs haunting the forest, killing those who enter and tearing off their clothes. Victoria is terrified, while Zoya mentions that the Widow of Shadows will take revenge. Christina asks more about the story, and Zoya repeats that they will all die. Scared, Victoria tries to close the car door when Andrei appears, scaring her. Harry, trying to lighten the mood, mentions that the story was interesting, but asks Zoya to rest. Andrei comments that the situation is complicated, as the saw isn't working and the road is blocked. Elias mentions a smaller path to the main road that will take them back near the starting point. Victoria questions the risk of getting lost, and an irritated Andrei insists that this won't happen. Andrei tries to start the vehicle, but it does not respond, which worries everyone. After several attempts, he finally manages to start it, and they begin their way back through the dark forest. A few hours later, they get out of the car, and Andrei notices that the road does not appear on the map. Frustrated, Victoria decides to check, but Andrei prefers that no one stays alone and sends Harry with her. Meanwhile, Elias helps Christina film her story. She begins the recording by saying that in a few hours it will be October 14th when they celebrate Our Lady's Day, the scariest night of the year, the last chance for evil spirits to attack. Commenting on the legends, she mentions that while today it's easier to understand them, the situation changes when one is lost in a forest. Meanwhile, Harry and Victoria find hay in the forest in a strange way. Harry says that all of this is too sinister and suggests going back, but Victoria feels something weird. Turning around, she realizes that one of the hay bales has disappeared, but there is no time to think, as Andrei calls them back, warning that he found the right way. He is in a hurry to get out of the forest, but the colleagues ask him to take it slow. He absent-mindedly mentions that his wife is waiting when the girls are startled by the appearance of one of the hay bales in the road, which Andrei drives over. As soon as they open the door, the team's dog runs barking into the forest. Harry thinks the dog has sniffed someone and decides to go check with Elias. Christina wants to go with them, but Andrei asks her to stay and help him. Elias questions why the dog didn't sniff Zoya earlier, since it is trained for that. Harry doesn't know the answer, and at that moment they hear the dog howling in the distance. Elias feels a strange presence, and when he turns around, he is startled by Christina. He asks what she wants, and she replies that she wants to stay with them. Christina says that Andrei released her to come with them. The two agree and ask her to stay close. On the way, Christina begins to ask several questions and asks why there was a pile of hay on the road. Elias thinks it might be some kind of witchcraft and comments that they have found naked people before, revealing he participated in 2 cases. She asks him to wait, as she wants to record his account. Meanwhile, Andrei is fixing the car when someone approaches. Andrei thinks it is Christina and asks her to grab the keys from the seat, but she doesn't say anything and stays still. Victoria appears beside him and hands him the keys. Andrei realizes that there was no one beside him and asks about Christina. Victoria replies that she went after the boys 5 minutes ago. Elias mentions that they found a dead lumberjack in the same way, without clothes and asphyxiated with mud all over his body. Christina asks about the other case, and he responds that it refers to today's. Harry interrupts them, saying he found a clue. Andrei tries to start the car but without success, and Victoria laments that they haven't found the boy. Andrei, terrified, says they won't find anything outside and that they need to get out of there urgently. Victoria tells him to look ahead, and he realizes that the dog has returned. Andrei gets out to fetch it, noticing that the animal is without a leash and refuses to approach the car, slowly walking away. Andrei begins to follow it, while the rest of the group tracks the dog to a hole from which they hear its whimpering. Harry warns that he will go into the hole, but Christina interrupts him, saying she will put a mini camera on him. Then Harry enters the hole. In the car, the others try to contact via radio and warn that another team is on the way. Victoria cannot speak due to interference. At that moment, Zoya appears with a demonic expression, saying they should have left her there and that no one will leave that forest alive. She warns that the widow will take the form of Victoria, making her cease to exist. She ignores this as Andrei returns with the dog. The woman hunches down upon seeing them, and Victoria notices that both are acting strangely, while Zoya repeats her threatening words. As she attempts to exit the vehicle, Victoria realizes that the doors are locked and that Andrei isn't responding. Looking back, she sees that Zoya has left the car and repeats that the widow will not let anyone out. Andrei shifts the car into gear and begins to accelerate, even with Victoria asking him to stop. Harry is increasingly deep in the hole, but finds nothing, and his friends start to worry. He continues searching and finds a phone, but does not notice the boy's body illuminated by the camera's light. Meanwhile, Andrei accelerates the vehicle, and Victoria, realizing that he will not stop, decides to abandon the car through the back door and jumps onto the road. Suddenly, everyone hears the rescue siren, and Victoria, aware of the danger, runs towards Andrei, only to find the van sinking in a river. Desperate, she breaks down in tears, unable to help her friend, while the rest of the group runs to check the situation. They come to a halt abruptly after hearing Victoria's scream and head in that direction. Victoria was crying by the river when she sees Andrei emerging from the river and walking toward the other side. She begins to follow him and pleads for him to stop, but he continues into the forest. The rest of the group arrives at the accident site, and Harry, worried, wants to dive in to find them. However, he is stopped by his colleagues as he is acting recklessly. Elias says he will check, and as he approaches the river, Andrei's body surfaces, floating. They quickly pull him out of the water, and Harry desperately tries to revive him. Elias stops him, stating that he is already dead, and comforts him as he tries to console him. Christina hears a noise nearby and warns the group, who runs to check, believing it to be Victoria. Victoria follows who she believes to be Andrei into an old house in the forest. Upon entering, she finds him motionless, staring at the wall and unresponsive. As she moves, she realizes that the false Andrei mimics her gestures. As if they are linked, she approaches the false Andrei and pulls him forward. Upon doing so, she realizes that this thing is not her friend and doesn't even have a face, and she faints shortly afterward. The trio continues the search for Victoria and finds Zoya hiding under a bridge, asking what happened to them. Victoria wakes up and begins to explore the house, where she finds strange objects, including bales of hay. A portrait reveals that the woman in the photo is Zoya. In scattered newspapers, she recognizes the same story told by Zoya, and upon comparing the images, realizes that the dead man was her husband. With this, she begins to consider the possibility that Zoya is the widow of Shadows. Her radio begins to pick up frequency, and she quickly tries to inform her friends about the danger Zoya poses. But at that moment, one of the hay bales slowly descends, floating behind Victoria, and as she turns, another falls on her. Back with the group, Elias tries to interrogate Zoya to find out what happened, but she remains silent. Another team tries to communicate via radio, but cannot hear due to being in a low area. Elias says they need to get out of there, and everyone agrees, but Harry wants to go back to find Andrew's body. Using the tablet to locate themselves, they notice 2 cameras connected to the app and discover that one is from Victoria. Elias decides to go check and asks Christina to stay with Zoya, but she wants to accompany him, and he refuses, saying it would only hinder. In the distance, someone activates a flare, but it goes out before the duo can approach. During the search, they hear a little boy's voice asking if they want to play, and find Victoria abandoned in the marshes. They rush to rescue her and take her back to the makeshift camp. Victoria recounts everything she saw in the abandoned house, including Zoya's husband, and believes that Zoya is a witch, mentioning ritual objects and claiming that she did something to Andre. Elias doubts, but asks to be alone with Victoria, and Christina, frightened, refuses. As they prepare for the search, Christina tries to comfort Victoria, who asserts that Zoya will kill them all. Christina asks if Victoria will be able to find the house again, believing that if they find evidence that Zoya is really a witch, they will have a chance of success. However, they quickly realize that Zoya has disappeared, and worry sets in. Meanwhile, Zoya performs a ritual, and Victoria searches for her, holding a flare. Upon finding her, Victoria asks what happened to Andre, but Zoya says the widow will not let anyone out. She explains that without a human sacrifice, the widow will not free her, and that she can no longer endure this situation. In a moment of desperation, Zoya grabs the flare's pipe and asserts that now it is Victoria's turn, pointing it at her own head and firing. Christina runs in and asks what happened, but Zoya replies that she did nothing. Harry and Elias appear, asking who shot, and Christina, furious, accuses Victoria, starting to record her and questioning how she feels about having killed 2 defenseless people. Victoria defends herself, stating that she did not kill anyone, and warns that they are all in danger because the widow will not allow anyone to escape. Harry ties her up, and Victoria pleads for them to check the cameras, insisting that it wasn't her. Elias offers to do that, but finds that the memory card is damaged. Harry remembers a phone he found earlier and hands it to Elias. Upon inserting the card, they find a recording of the missing boys. The older brother decides to prank the younger one, but hears strange noises and goes to investigate. As they approach, they see Zoya naked, performing a sacrifice to ensure that the widow leaves the living in peace. Suddenly, the scarecrow bursts into flames, and Zoya transforms into a creature as the younger brother flees in panic. The video ends, and Victoria repeats the same words, realizing that Zoya had been protecting them all along. Elias asks who from, but cannot get answers, as another rescuer warns that they are already at the meeting point. They light a flare and begin to walk in the indicated direction. After some time, Victoria comments that they seem to be walking in circles. At that moment, terrifying screams echo through the forest as Victoria repeats Zoya's words. Suddenly, Harry is pulled up and brutally murdered, causing the group to panic and begin to flee. As they run, Christina and Victoria end up tripping, and Elias runs to help Christina. When they recover, they realize that the area is filled with pieces of clothing and sharp stakes. The trio starts to investigate, and Victoria finds the dog's collar, questioning what all of this is for. Elias deduces that this is a trap to catch something. Victoria connects the dots and realizes that they are at the location where the widow was buried. Another rescue team tries to contact them, but Elias is acting strangely, insisting that there is no way out of that place. Christina panics and begs him to respond, and his eyes suddenly turn black. Elias reveals that he will also die, but the widow wants one of them. He pulls away, claiming that the widow is listening to them and starts digging into the ground. Upon doing so, he finds a faceless figure buried and is quickly pulled down. Frightened, Christina and Victoria begin to run again, but Christina trips. Victoria tells her to get up and keep running, but soon they hear a terrifying noise coming from the woods. Victoria realizes that only one of them can leave alive, and the two are tied together by a rope. She starts cutting it, but is pulled by the creature. However, she manages to cut the rope, allowing Christina to live. Christina crawls on the ground and finds the little boy's teddy bear, but her flashlight dies. Desperate, she searches her backpack and finds some flares. She quickly lights them, trying to illuminate the area to find the exit. However, in a few steps, the flare goes out. She uses a lighter, and when she looks ahead, she thinks she sees Victoria, but when the creature turns around, she discovers it has her own face and is shocked. A few hours later, Christina is rescued but remains in total shock. In the house in the forest, we see that Victoria has taken Zoya's place and is now performing human sacrifices for the widow, thus ending the film.